Appreciated. I'm going to just have my camera on for those that don't know me. Just for a little bit of bright color, being retired, but still passionate about local government. I was going to share my presentation. I think I just want to take my video off. Everybody can see?
Yes, it's visible.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so this is a huge topic, and it's not something to try and cover in a short space of time. But I want to try and make it practical. I think we've all been through so much and so many presentations and so many ideas around smart city. Only thing I want to bring your attention to is from 2014 to 2018, I was part of a very strong, big Ultron team presenting smart city options to SALGA, trying to look at how do we improve local government, because back then we could realize that if we can change local government, we are then on a way that we can change South Africa. Being able to do it centrally does not work. As David said, it has to be done on the ground. That's the only place. So today is too much to go through. I'm going to try and go through a little bit, but my idea is if I can inspire just one person to do one thing in a practical way, then that is really what my focus has been about over this last period of time. So the important thing for me is trying to work through showing how a smart city is only achieved through digital data management. The data is the key factor in it. Everyone talks smart city, IoT, etc. It really deals about how do you make better decisions using the data. And I'm just going to try and briefly touch on that without chewing your ears for 10 hours. I don't know if you're aware that smart cities have been around for 58 years. And the first person who actually came up with the idea of it was actually Walt Disney in the creation of Disneyland. And the point that stood out for me was it can never be completed. And I think that is what I take away from anything that we do. We need to start with something and realize it can never be completed. And that enables us to move forward. Otherwise, we can see it as such a big world that trying to do something about it becomes almost impossible. Who do we have as our poster child? Singapore. If you realize that they only started 10 years ago, not before, 10 years ago, and what they've achieved in 10 years. However, if you realize that they've spent 1.7 billion is what their budget is over a 4-year period, you will know that in South Africa, and that's in dollars, we would not have that kind of funds available to us. Hence, we need to approach it in a stacking manner, in doing one thing and building onto it with an iterative process. But it's good to keep this in mind because this helps you have a vision of where you're trying to move towards. And you will eventually get there, just maybe not in an immediate lifetime. We all talk smart city. At the end of the day, it's about data. That's all it is. It's about better decision making. It's about the quality of the data. And by the quality of the data, we give a service delivery improvement. If it is about a sensor, if it is about this talking to that, at the end of the day, the only reason they're talking is to give us the data. And that quality of that data is what enables us to make the decisions of where the money needs to be spent, where the efficiencies will be gained in order to improve and make it a city or a municipality that is desired by all to be there. Why do we want to strive towards it? I always find that the why is important. And the why is really about that it's not a job, that it's not an effort. I focus on 2 areas because to focus on too many means that we would be here for 2 weeks. So I look at efficiencies in terms of the municipality, what are the approaches that they are using? How can we make their end-to-end efforts more efficient to be able to then manage that workflow, see where work is, and then improve that so that the money can be directed to communities and not into wasted technology. I then also look at local economic development, because I do believe that this is where we can have poverty reduction. This is where we can provide innovation, sustainability, and jobs. The rest of it is dealing around the normal. E-services, many municipalities, local government are busy with e-services already, trying to get where it needs to be. If I look at city planning and development, making cities of choice, there are already initiatives to it. These are just further supplemented by being able to achieve those efficiencies in the supply chain lines and in the creation of jobs. Water quality monitoring, water leak management, these are in place. It's the focused areas where cities are already focusing on getting their data. The question is, how do we get that data from those disparate systems and bring them into a dashboard, into a place where better decisions can be made or better transparency is? Being able to look at how do we make the city sustainable, either through the solar power that people are with or through analyzing of the transport solutions. I always talk about the traffic fines, but if you analyze the traffic fine data, not just the fact that they don't get paid, but also where is most of it being deployed, that data begins to tell us whether our metro police or local area police, traffic police are doing the right job, or whether we've got problem areas that we need to do. Again, it all comes back to data and how we work with that data. I'm not going to go through this, but what I want to just show you from a perspective of local government, coming from private sector, I really never understood how complex a local government is, how much has to be dealt with. And this functionality map just helps one realize that for all those ICT managers out there, trying to navigate all the different systems, all the different departments, all the different stakeholders, it is a huge environment and not to be underestimated. We've all seen these slides. We're not going to try today in a short space of 30 minutes to go through the different layers, the different elements within a smart city. I think when one looks at this, it can become quite overwhelming, especially in terms of where will you get the budget? Where do you start? Which is the area that you need to get towards? I go back to saying it's about stacking. You start in one place, gathering the data, showing how we improve those efficiencies, moving it to the next, and through that, it becomes to spread out and be able to achieve more across the municipality. And as you collaborate across the municipalities, then what is done at one municipality can be done at another one and vice versa. And that way we get this collaboration, this sharing, this amazing growth that can be achieved in a shorter space of time because each one is focusing on an area and then sharing it out. The advantage of having the local government and having these kind of initiatives is it's about collaboration. It's not about a vendor saying, no, you can only do this. No, you can only do that. It's really about looking at those local government, those municipalities, and finding what works, and then being able to replicate that across all. There are so many role players in a local municipality. I think in dealing with all the different areas, all the different departments, and each with their needs, and then each of those, whether it be the multiple vendors, whether it be the network providers, whether it be the software, whether it be operations, it is a very, very big area to navigate. I think people underestimate the pure stress on those ICT managers of what they're trying to bring together, because everybody wants a smart city. Everyone's shouting for a smart city, but actually to achieve it is really not a small feat. So what do we already have? I'm very practical. I very much look at how do we do something, even if it's just one thing, inspire one change, stack one thing upon another thing. We look at leveraging the existing infrastructure. We segregate it into layers. Municipalities, local government already have fiber networks, CCTV, smartphone penetration. Some may have IoT sensors if it is a weighbridge talking it in, if it is in a water pipe, depending on where it is. Solar power, that is obviously everyone's initiative at the moment, and I think it's very successful in the way it's going. And then transport initiatives, because a smart city is about transport, is about getting around and making things available. How do you bring this all together? again, we talk about data, and we have to have an iterative long-term vision. And if you remember that you will never complete, which is very hard in an ICT world because everyone likes a project to start and to finish. If you make peace with this, then you can start immediately by stacking small successes that will then bring you towards your goal of achieving a smart city. What is critical? I think one of your sessions already, David, was dealing with cybersecurity. This is the most critical of all. I don't care what anybody says. You cannot have an application running without a network being secure. No matter how secure the application is, if the network's not secure, there's no ways that the application will not be hacked. So cybersecurity is the major focus for me in a smart city initiative. This is number one priority and should drive everything that you're doing. The second part is dealing with your network, because connectivity for me is about bringing everything together. It's how we collate the data. It's how we use the data. It's how we connect the people together. I'm very interested in AI ops. This is taking AI to a practical sense, being able to monitor a network. Everyone will say their networks are good, but we've all learned that as you use applications, as we move data, as we bulk or get concurrency, we will end up then with congestion. It could be a small thing of a switch on a bit of a place. With AI ops, you turn the cycle. Instead of being reactive and running around, you become proactive. You begin a monitoring. It begins to learn how to reroute things. And this for me is one of the ways that you can start to use AI for a proper intended purpose, and not all the hype about it being noisy or losing jobs. This becomes proactive because being able to have a network that can be relied on, it is fundamental next to cybersecurity for a local government, for a municipality to have. And again, to be able to get to data-driven decision-making, it's about collecting that data and bringing it together. It is not possible for one human or a team in an ICT department to be able to achieve that. So this is, for me, is an area that I would spend money on initially, being able to budget for it, being able to see that this is how you're going to build the layers that you need to get towards your smart city. Connection is key to everything, whether it be through the households, whether it be digital services, whether it be for your teams who are out there doing jobs to be able to communicate back. We all know connection is key to everything. But what's critical is we must empower through connectivity. If we do not make an impact in the townships, if we do not make an impact where there is a lack through connectivity, we cannot change local government. We cannot change poverty. Connectivity gives people access to opportunities, to learnings, to being able to have a skill. And everyone will look at this and say, oh, no, you can't do that because the stuff is going to get stolen. Well, this company did something totally different. Together with the university, together with the Department of Science and Innovation, they came up with a model where the community looks after the infrastructure because the community understands what needs to be done and how important it is to them. If one looks at what they did recently in Ocean View down here in Cape Town, it's made a big impact. It's made a change, and the community is aware of it and takes care of it. This is they've just recently done it in Kenya, because in Nairobi, they are also focusing on creating a smart city. Have you ever looked at this? Have you explored these options? This is something that I think is well worth investigating and talks about local economic development, changing the poverty line. If one now begins to look at the city, and while you look at it, you no longer see the buildings. In everything that you're looking at, or the roads, you are now seeing the data, and only the data. Because in the data are the patterns for you to be able to transform and see something different. So if we look at smart city, we actually talk digital data management. It is the key. It is the only way to be able to understand what is going on. Previously, local government worked on a lot of paper-based, and maintenance on Excel spreadsheets. How do we bring that into an ERP, into a system, or into a data warehouse to start to analyze that data? Recently, if we look at Barcelona, who's attempting to do a lot of improvement, they have over 400 data sets that they have categorized that data to bring the data together. If you do not categorize the data, it doesn't matter how much data you collect, you're not able to translate that into something to make a decision about. I talk about commodities, I talk about the CIDMS, because in local government, MSCOA is the reform. I think it's fantastic. I know many people will disagree with me, but it is a national treasury reform that will reduce corruption as we go. It will take a lot of adoption, a lot of time, but it's in the categorizing of the spend and the categorizing of the data. I took that one step further to commodities, because in commodities, into the international commodities, we can begin to see, what does the data mean? Is this services? Is this accounting services? Is this a pen? It works on a whole basis that the whole world works. In South Africa, it's not been used. It's used in manufacturing and being able to buy and sell. But in local government, it hasn't really been used, nor in provincial governments, nor in national government. We took that and aligned that to the MSCOA chart so that what we could begin to see is, where is the spend? Not just on what a person is estimating or spending to see it's a blue pen. We truly see that that is where the data is moving to. And by categorizing that, we suddenly give ourselves the opportunity to actually use AI and go and say, oh, you paid 500 Rand for that blue pen. But if I go into the market, I'll see that that is actually 50 cents. It then just gives you a different view of how you look at data. So digital data management, for me, key is being able to categorize. All data has patterns. No matter what anybody tells you, all data has a pattern. And how you define that is how you're going to know that that data is going to end up in a place where you can make worthwhile decisions to it. This lovely one that they're busy with at the moment is actually measuring data from 150,000 lampposts, 40,000 garbage containers, and 80,000 parking spots. Imagine being able to start, but you've got to start with one. I call it stacking, because if you try and look for the budget for something like that, we all know what the answer to that is going to be. But if we can take that data and start in one place and then extrapolate it out, we will get the budget team to see, oh, if they invest a little bit more towards this, we could get better efficiencies in a year or 18 months' time, and that money could be routed then to different places. The biggest challenge facing local government is all the disparate data systems. There has to be different systems. That is a given. One system cannot be everything in a local government scenario. And the decision is, how do you categorize that data? How do you bring that monitoring into a place, into a control area where you can then decide how to get there? I call it about stacking those layers together. You start at some place, and then as you can, you're going to add more and add more together, because all data has a pattern. Don't forget that. Irrespective of what vendors tell you, every bit of data that you're dealing with, that you can categorize, that you can align to, has a pattern. And through that, you are able then to make decisions through it. When we look at digital transformation journey, it's really, you can't achieve it without going on a journey. And you have to keep that journey going over an iterative time. I know from real experience trying to modernize an ERP system, it's not an overnight thing. Trying to modernize and digitize systems and processes and people is not easy. Change management is your worst enemy. You have to ask the questions again, why? Because it's that why that will give you the passion for it and not see it as a job. What do you want to transform and how to transform? Because there are many areas in local government. Where do you start to make your gains? I like to look at it from a very practical perspective. If we can achieve process efficiencies, if we can take that and we can redirect into a community, we then end up with more money being spent on the right things for the purpose of what local government was intended to be. How to get the funding? In the beginning, I say focus on the opportunities that are available, but do it in a practical way. And just to give you some ideas, and it's really around just showing you that it doesn't have to be this big, fancy, big budget project. Once you get your connectivity right, you can provide street vendors with smart stalls. That way you are making sure that that second economy starts to come alive. Simple things connected into the ERP means more revenue is coming in. Starting to give people access to connectivity means they can start to look for opportunities. If one looks at indigent applications, this is a big drain in South Africa. Instead of it just becoming a pseudo welfare system, how do we include their skills in the application? How do we render something to them that allows us to collate that together? How do we join then with the supply chain department, the stores, the maintenance? How do we create employment by reskilling those indigents? And then again, we use the ward, the councillor, the community to monitor that. You link with private sector, certificates, we're creating future revenue, we're creating future job opportunities, achievable through that connection of being able to get people and data available and exposed. Competitions. This is South Africans are highly innovative. This is never used sufficiently. We should be proud of our cities where we live. We should be proud of coming up with options. How do we generate and drive that? Because 90% of the time it's going to lead to something that is going to make a difference. I've spoken about the classifying. It's critical for the data. And I talk about building own systems locally. Extend those systems to other municipalities to cover costs. Grow the developer pool in South Africa, in your municipality, in that remote work. I talk about always being in a private sector versus local government. How do we actually do something different? Why should the money move overseas? Simple things. And my favorite, and I will spend a lot of time on this because it's something small and practical that we can start with immediately. That's not big cost, is the drone pilots. Looking at how do we use drones? How do we monitor things with drones? So I'm really just showing you this. When you are getting your data in a better way, you're moving towards a smart city by some practical opportunities that you can then use to say, I need funding to get connectivity right, because these are the LED options that we can look at going forward. When I look at this, I look at proud of our hood. You know, it's local government. Everyone has this concept that somebody else needs to fix it up. I love the Cape Town mayor. He's made such an effort on litter. And he's made people go out there and now walk around the neighborhood cleaning up. That initiative can be rolled out everywhere, but you could take it even further if you have the data and the place to expose that data. If you bring about connectivity where people can say, I have a street that needs some cleaning, as long as the municipality facilitates. You may get one ward adopting another ward. You may get a street adopting another street, a school. It's by making that data available. That's the idea behind a smart city initiative. It can't all be done by the municipality. You have to find a way to work within that community. I call it rallying for good. It's just another way of being able to bring everyone together. But you as a smart city, by having that data and exposing that data, in a positive way, obviously, not with data privacy, etc., that makes a difference in how people could react. Just imagine if you could get a street in, I'll just use my suburb in Bergfleet, adopting a street in, say, Ocean View, or a street in Retreat, along with the municipality who provides the safety. That is the power of a smart city, not all driven by the local government, but driven by ICT making data available, making systems available for people to be aware of what's going on and how can help. Generally, people want to help. They want to do something different. My favorite, future of data collection. I'm hoping everyone can still hear me because I can't see any. Future of data collection.
Audible and visible.
Okay, great. So the most important thing for me is I love drones. I've loved them for the last few years. People have laughed at me a few years back, but it doesn't mean the technology has to be here today. We have to see the potential. We have to see where we're going to. We have to see it for it to come into fruition. I talk about all these youngsters who play games. How do we create jobs for them? Well, we could have a line of drone pilots. Not only are we using it already in environmental conservation or in fires where they send the drones out to go and check, but when someone logs a call for a problem in a street, why send out a team? Why can't we send out a drone? I often look around the neighborhood and I see the truck and a few people and some standing around and a supervisor, and sometimes they do the work, sometimes they don't do the work. Everyone has those frustrations. Why can't we be using drones to, one, measure what's going on? First of all, being able to see it. Yes, it'll take a long time for us to get the data going or to stack the data, but at least by sending out a drone, being able to take with the data and saying, oh, there's an electrical pipe over there. There is a water pipe over there. There is sewage over there. We need this team. We don't need that team. That ends up giving us better efficiencies, creating a way to collate that data immediately. Water pipe leaks, infrared drones. I mean, water for us is absolutely critical. I fully believe in being able to fly a drone over the pipes because they can, to a level, detect where there is moisture and be able to be proactive about it instead of when we're analyzing the data to see, oh, we've got a water loss. This for me is the most exciting thing. And it's not about now. We can't achieve this immediately. But what we can start to do is bring the disparate systems together, start to stack the data, start to have a look. Yes, drones at the moment can give images and relay those images back. But one day, the drones are going to be able to integrate, be able to look at the images. They started already in being able to identify your photos. And just think on your phone, you can search for a family member and it will look for it through your photos. So the technology is going to keep evolving. If we can now start to layer our data from a smart city perspective, where we can now see when we send that drone out, that control center can know exactly what the problem is and also know the severity of the problem. Instead of getting 100 calls and trying to go one by one, first in, first out, we can start to use the drones to be able to bring that data together, use AI variables to be able to say which ones need to move, which ones are more serious, which ones are going to give us a bigger impact. And the most important savings is going to be on the overtime. I've seen in many cases where we wait too long, the pipe blows up, and then we are there through the whole night. The community is all upset. That's always going to happen. But if we start with a plan, with a vision of being able to achieve this, eventually we will. There's drones that can do water monitoring, sensors within pipes, just as an example. And if you really get to the place, and you will eventually, you'll be able to see how in a smart city concept, everything is brought together through the data that we get from all the disparate systems to bring it together for the decision making. And if you look at that holistically, you have to start with one or two things. You can't achieve all of this, just being real about it, overnight. But you can start with a vision to start to get the data together. So in holistically, in a practical sense, it's about the data and connecting that to the ERP's data, being able to bring all of that together to give us the right decisions. Because that's all a smart city is the right decision based on the right data. Connecting departments, bringing in data from side systems, connecting communities, businesses, partnerships for upskilling. I think the local government should do more to be able to bring in, and I'm not saying private sector where I call it a bit of a ripoff. I'm talking more about how do we actually holistically say, we want this area to grow. And to get it to grow, we need to upskill. We have a lot of disparities in our communities. By upskilling, we manage a way of certificates with the private sector, which then the local government people would be able to use those people to do jobs. Data sharing, I love the fact that we are started to define the data inputs and outputs, being able to say, how do we categorize that data? And then how do we collate that and bring that together? And my favorite is achieving an ERP control center with real-time monitoring of all events, jobs, measurement, and that gives us our digital data management. As humans, we will never be able to analyze all that data. If you can just see the city and see the layers in the city, see all the structures I call in the CIDMS, all the layers of the infrastructure. And that is the beauty of where AI can come in to consume and analyze that data in real time. But we must start. We must start with the first bit. The first bit is stacking. And then from a provincial perspective, because for me, that is an important aspect, I look at it's not possible for each municipality in South Africa or in the Western Cape to be able to achieve smart city. The money that is required, not possible. You can only achieve it through collaboration. You can only achieve it through these kind of sessions and the willingness to share. Luckily, in the municipal space, no one is competing with anyone. So it is a good idea to be able to share information. From a provincial level, you begin to come up with a framework. How do you decide that we are somewhere towards a smart city? How do you start to share and say this kind of a facility will bring it to you? You must not underestimate that power of MSCOA. What that did, or what that is busy doing, is standardizing the data. Add commodities to that. Add the CIDMS to that. The data is beginning to be standardized and categorized. And that helps us then to be able to identify what areas in that data can help us to achieve something that is modernizing towards efficiencies. And then you come up with leading practices, which I can see from what David's process is trying to share. But that's why provincial is so important. Not to stand and be telling, but to give the guidelines, to give the learning so that people don't have to learn the same things over and over again. And then you consider the options and develop goals. Maybe in this municipality or this local government area, this is one area to focus on because they've got something different versus another one. And then once each one of those have learned, then it is shared and implemented at the others. And then obviously the business case for the implementation to support the funding. And I think when you focus on process efficiencies, you can get provincial and national funding to be able to assist. And that's 30 minutes that you asked for, David. I think the one thing that I love about South Africans is we are creative and we come up with amazing innovations. The important thing is, how do you as a local government area make that available so that people can contribute, that ideas can come forward, because then we really truly can achieve what I would term smart city.